Hey, what's happening, y'all? It's your boy Rico from StreetScores, and we are here to break down what, by my count, are Commanders training camp practices days 12 and 13. Now, granted, of course, they've had more practices than that, but that's how many practices that I've gotten clips and information from, at least enough for me to break down. And again, we're combining 12 and 13. I'm sorry that I'm this late coming out this video. It's 2 a.m. the next day, but we're breaking down the practices that went down Thursday and Friday. August 14th and August 15th, we combined them because the Thursday one was just a quick jog through. We only got like a couple of clips and a couple of information updates from those. So I was like, I might as well go ahead and just combine it with what went down on Friday, August 15th, and we're here to break all of that down. Of course, we're going to go position group by position group. As you can see in the title, we have things to talk about, like Jayden Daniels apparently has a photographic memory. That's going to really set him apart from a lot of the other quarterbacks in the NFL. That's why he's going to be one of the greats. We're going to dive into that and like how happy Cliff Kingsbury is that he has it and all of that type of stuff. Also, is Javon Kinlaw primed to have a Pro Bowl campaign? Ryan Kerrigan thinks so. We're going to dive into that. JaCorey Brooks still balling some more, making some plays in practice. You'll even see one of the clips when I show it to y'all. So we're going to dive into everything in this practice. But before we do, make sure you stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Make sure you stay tuned to all the content. I'm going to keep y'all updated on every single thing the Commanders ever do. Like I said, any practice that we get any clips from, any information, who did well, who did poorly, anything like that, I got y'all. I will have y'all updated, even if I'm a little late, even if I'm a day late or a day and a half late. I'm going to make sure I get that to y'all. And make sure, again, we are running dangerously low out of Commanders Kings live show tickets for August 24th at Crystal City Sports Pub in Virginia, man. Make sure y'all go ahead and buy those tickets. And even if you can't, you can also go and donate. So go hit that link in the description of this video and all of the videos I've done the past couple of weeks. And without further ado, let's go and dive into this video right now, man. Let's get it. Adam. All right, so before we even dive into everything that went down in practice, again, some of these things are from August 14th, Thursday. Some of these things are from Friday, August 15th, just to combine it. If you see a practice bubble clip where they're inside, that's Thursday. If you see them outside, that's Friday, just to go ahead and let you know that, because you're going to see clips from both practices, and I'm going to try to remember to update y'all on what happened on which day, but overall, you just really need to know the information that's coming out. But first of all, speaking of the bubble, shouts out to John Kahn for this clip right here. This is the new bubble. Remember, they just created a new one like this off season. Like after we went on that run last season, they decided this off season to build a new one. And I don't even think that we knew, at least I didn't know until Nikki Javala uploaded a photo of the outside of the new bubble until like just a few weeks ago. Like before training, like right before training camp started, well, like around the time that Terry McLaurin, all of this potential holdout stuff started, and he had like the Eastern Motors interview, it wasn't until like then that I was even aware that they had a new practice bubble that they were even building and working on. So this is the new one. Shouts out to the Commanders for doing everything that they can to make the team, the facilities, everything as great as possible on the field, off the field, business side, all of that type of stuff, man. So I'm really happy. Skylar Nelson also uploaded the other clip that you're seeing in rotation. And again, the practice that was on Thursday, August 14th, that was a jog through in the practice bubble. So not like a real big practice, but we still have a lot of clips and updates that came from that practice that I'm going to give you as well. But that was more so a jog through. So there wasn't like full pads. There wasn't contact or anything like that. It was just a glorified warm up, basically, essentially. And then on Friday, they went back outside and it was a padded practice. So shouts out to David Harrison for these pictures right here, just to show you kind of the scenery of what it looked like for that practice before everybody else got out onto the field. And just to let you know, teams don't typically practice at like 8 a.m., but we've been doing that since the summer's been so hot. I don't even think we did that last year, but this year they've been like 8 a.m. pretty much every day because it's going to be so hot. Even on days that it's not that hot, at this point, they've just set the schedule to be 8 a.m. permanently for the remainder of training camp, and I fully understand, man. Now, moving on to the coaches and some of the things that they had to say. Now, I'm pretty sure y'all have heard this, but I haven't spoken about it on my channel just yet, but Dan Quinn let everybody know that yes, the Ravens and the Commanders have mutually agreed to call off their joint practice that was scheduled next week. I'm really sad about that, man. I am a big joint practice guy, so that really made me sad to see that. I was really looking forward to that one because the Patriots joint practice, and from everything that I hear from people that actually went, like afterwards, we weren't getting a lot of updates during, but afterwards people say, yeah, we obviously looked like the better team when it mattered. When it was starters versus starters, we looked like the better team. And that's why I was so excited about the Ravens joint practice, because that's a really good team. That's a Lamar Jackson that at the very least statistically should have won MVP last year, with arguably going to be the best defense in all of football. I think it's between them, the Broncos. I think the Seahawks have a very underrated defense as well, but the Ravens are going to have one of the best defenses, and adding the Georgia Bulldog like my boy Malachi Starks is only going to make it even scarier. And then Mike Green, come on, man. And then the offense is insane, even just outside of Lamar Jackson. So I was really hoping to get some good work against those guys in the joint practice, because sadly, when we play them in this preseason game that's going down August 23rd, the night before we had, well, technically the day before we do the Commanders live show in person at Crystal City Sports Pub, just to let y'all know again, we're not going to play any starters in there. If anything, it's going to be even more backups playing in that game than even in the Patriots game. At least the Patriots game, we saw Tre'Nayvon Amos, Johnny Newton, Josh Connolly, a couple of those guys go out there and play for at least play for a little bit. The Ravens game is purely going to be third and fourth stringers competing for the last couple of roster spots and practice squad spots. So it really sucks that we lose that, because now the only real meaningful snaps that we're going to get against starters for the remainder of this offseason, outside of the Patriots joint practice and the very tiny bit that a couple of starters played in the Patriots preseason game, is this upcoming Bengals preseason game on August 18th that I will, of course, be live streaming and everything like that. So make sure you pull up, because that game is going to happen at 8 p.m. I'll start streaming at 7 p.m. But again, outside of the Patriots joint practice, the only other chance that our starters will get any meaningful reps against a opposing starting defense in the NFL, or opposing starting offense or whatever, is against the Bengals in this preseason game. That's it. Patriots joint practice, Bengals preseason game. The only time the starters get any snaps against a starting opposing team. That is scary. I mean, Dan Quinn even said that some starters will play against the Bengals, but those plans were already in place and not impacted by the canceled joint practice. And Dan Quinn said canceling the practice is a bummer, but it just ended up being a scheduling conflict. And that's really interesting. Like, I mean, what could the conflict have been, especially since we already knew weeks ago? Remember, I think what the schedule release was like May or something like that. Why did we wait till now to end up canceling it? Like, we've had this scheduled since after. Once we already knew what our preseason games were, they officially scheduled this joint practice after we knew exactly when and where everybody played and who they went against. So I don't know what happened. I'm just going to assume this is on the Ravens end. Mitch Sisler even said no Commanders and Ravens joint practice next week. Not great for the starters, who most likely won't get work in the third preseason game. I'm letting y'all know right now, starters not playing in that third preseason game unless we look that bad as starters against the Bengals. I just highly doubt it. They're going to use that time to let all of the backups compete against each other. And Mason Kinahan brought up a good point too. He said the Commanders-Ravens joint practice being canceled sucks, because I think we would have been able to learn a lot from this, about this team, from it. But it definitely makes sense given the fact that there's a Monday preseason game for the Commanders and how banged up Washington's starting offense is right now. And then Chris Russell brought up a good point. He said, I thought joint practices were the end-all, be-all for coaches. The schedule next week is not impossible by any means for a practice that is not a game. And again, my point is, they scheduled this joint practice after we already knew the preseason schedule. So that's really weird to me. He said, this is weird. They can't cancel the game because it would cost everybody money, but I don't get it. And then somebody named @SkinsDieHard2T on Twitter brought up a good point. He said, I think the Commanders preferred to run practice on Thursday since we play on Monday against the Bengals, and the Ravens preferred to play on Tuesday or Wednesday for a joint practice, so they just couldn't come to a mutual agreement. I'm going to assume that's probably what happened actually behind the scenes. The Commanders may prefer to practice on Thursday, the Ravens prefer to practice on Tuesday or Wednesday, and then that's how we ended up in the situation that we are right now. And then shouts out to DC Sports Dre. He said, I really wish the NFL would schedule Monday Night Football preseason games. But hey, money. I completely agree. That's how we got in this situation. We have a Monday night preseason game. I know they want to put us as prime time as much as possible. They have us on Christmas. They have us tied with the Chiefs. for the most primetime games, or at least standalone games, whatever you want to call it, out of the entire NFL. And to the point that they even gave us a Monday Night Football preseason game. Like, chill, man. And shouts out to Grant Paulson. He said this feels like a big deal. The Commanders were using this as a preseason game of some sorts. Now they just lost it. One, they need to play starters more against Cincy than they plan to now. I agree. This, again, the Bengals are the only time outside of that Patriots joint practice that starters will get any snaps against an opposing team's starters at any point this offseason, just to let you know. And so, yeah, now they're going to have to probably play more against the Bengals because of that, now that they don't have that joint practice to look forward to after the Bengals preseason game. Also, number two, there's a significant chance for McLaurin to get ready in the final week of the preseason. Now lost. That's cooked. Like Terry McLaurin, if he doesn't magically show up signed today, as in Saturday, August 16th, or maybe by tomorrow, August 17th, and he ends up missing this Bengals preseason game, he's not going to get a chance to get any real meaningful practice snaps against an opposing team until he shows up week one regular season against the Giants. And I would expect some rust. I would expect some chemistry issues between him and Jayden Daniels because of that. And that really does suck, man. This joint practice, definitely not having it, I feel like it hurts us even more than it hurts the Ravens. But either way, moving on, now something, just to break down that happened at kind of everybody, the offense and the defense combined. Just another update real quick. There was a situation with Nikki Javala talked about how something she said was taken out of context. Pedro Smith tweeted, Commanders reporter Nikki Javala said, quote, I'm at the point where I'm like, yikes, they have problems, unquote, when talking about the Commanders training camp vibe. She said in reply, taken out of context quite a bit, I wasn't referring to the whole team. And then so he posted the exact quote that she gave, and she's still like, man, it's, it was taken out of context. I'm not here to dive into that. But the quote that she gave was, and then you interpret how you feel about this quote. I mean, I have concerns about the state of the roster right now, but it's similar to last year. There were even more of a mystery last year where it was like, I could see them winning so-and-so games, or I could see them totally tanking and ending up near the bottom of the league again. And honestly, you look at the number of games they won on the very last play from scrimmage, it literally could have gone either way. I sort of feel the same this season, where it wouldn't surprise me if they have a really good season, another strong season they try to build on, and you look at the travel, the opponents, the general second-year slump, I can see them going either way. I haven't gotten the same feeling coming out of camp as last year, where it was like, oh, wow, Jayden is really, really good. I mean, he is really, really good. That's a continuing feeling, but you don't have that. Oh, wow, this could be totally different feeling. Maybe this is just the cynic in me, but I'm at the point where I'm like, yikes, they have problems and they need to fix these quickly because time's running out. And so that's Nikki Javala's overall take as far as what the Commanders team looks like so far in training camp. Maybe Terry McLaurin not being there has a lot to do with that. Now moving into the position groups, breakdowns, position group by position group, starting with the quarterback, of course. And I have a lot of clips from here. I have more clips to show you than I have actual breakdowns. But Zach Selby pointed out that at some point in practice, Jayden Daniels had a really nice throw to JaCorey Brooks. Like, he threw a dart deep down the field to the wide receiver for the completion. And that was like the only play update I got at all. Nobody else said anything else about Jayden Daniels other than his connection with JaCorey Brooks. Deebo Samuel running a lot of plays. We're going to dive into that soon. And also his connection to Zach Ertz as well. We're going to dive into that when we get to the tight end part of this video. That's like literally it. No matter where I look, no matter where I listen, all of that type of stuff. But after practice, you had a bunch of people complimenting Jayden Daniels. So this is where we actually get to talk about him a little bit before we move on to the running backs. Laramie Tunsil talked about his relationship with Jayden Daniels. He said, quote, he makes my job easy. Hopefully he says the same about me. Our relationship is special. Everybody in the locker room, our relationship is special. This is a tight group, a tight team. I'm glad to be here, honestly, unquote. So Jayden Daniels makes Laramie Tunsil happy to be a part of this team, and that's a perennial Pro Bowler, so you see what you're doing. Von Miller literally said he signed with the Commanders because of Jayden Daniels. That's the type of effect Jayden Daniels has on this NFL right now, and adds to the ability as to why the Commanders are able to acquire such talent, such veteran talent. Also, Cliff Kingsbury said that one change from Jayden Daniels going from last year to this year is that, quote, he's treating every practice and rep like a game, whether it's carrying out fakes, moving around to throw the ball away, unquote. He gave a bunch of examples and stuff like that, and I love that, man. That sounds like he's taking every single rep and snap so seriously, to the point that even, it's practice, but I'm going to sit here and throw the ball out of bounds and not force a throw, because that's more realistic and closer to like an actual real game scenario where, typically people in practice, they take their risk, and you can take some risk. I'm not saying be completely risk averse, but at times you do need to get into the habit of practicing. Oh, there's nothing there, let me just throw it to somebody underneath open or throw it out of bounds and live to fight another down, because that's what you're going to do a lot in actual real games on Sundays. Also, Dan Quinn talking about Jayden Daniels' growth in year 2 as well. He said, quote, I've noticed a lot of things. He's really on it. I mean, we know this. We've talked about the work ethic. Now you see other levels of making others better. This is what I saw. This is the correct spot, a change of protection. So now he's able to develop others and help them fulfill what they can be. And so that's a big deal. And that comes with communication, experience, and feedback. You're not quite able to do that your first day on the job, but you gain street cred by your performance. And I felt like street cred was a funny way to word that, but it is what it is. I see what he's saying. By the things you do. And then trust them and say, so, hey man, this is what I see. This is where the ball would go. And as a teammate, okay, you want to hear that information because that's giving you feedback. This is what I need you to do, help you in this spot. So that's what I would see him just compounding and making others better just by his communication, the way he's leading. So those would be some of the things that I've noticed so far, unquote. Dan Quinn speaking very highly of Jayden Daniels, so has Cliff Kingsbury. Going back to Cliff Kingsbury, JP Finley pulled this part of Cliff Kingsbury talking about how elite quarterbacks, but Jayden Daniels just separates himself from even those guys because apparently he has a photographic memory for his play recall. Cliff Kingsbury said, quote, first time install, first time we say it, Jayden Daniels can tell you where everyone is going and what they're doing and their job and all of that type of stuff, man. He said, man, I wish I could take credit for that, but that's just God-given ability. We'll go out to walkthroughs, I'll screw up a play and he'll nail it. So he's a lot more cerebral on that stuff than I am. I think he just has one of those photographic memories. The first time we install it, the first time we say it, he can tell you where everybody's going, what they're doing, their job. And so that's a God-given thing, not a coaching thing, unquote. So Jayden Daniels is just blessed with certain abilities that other people, you can't even acquire that. You can't gain that. It's just something he has, and thank goodness he has it. Now moving on to the running backs. Cliff Kingsbury was pretty complimentary of Brian Robinson, and I agree. I feel like this is a great way to view Brian Robinson. He said, quote, he's a guy that when you put the pads on and you really practice full speed, that's when he really shows up. I thought he had his best practice of the offseason against New England when we did the competition versus them before the game. Unquote. I love that. I absolutely love that. That is the time that, when there's no pads on, it's really hard to tell how great or how much Brian Robinson can contribute because he's not this super explosive, super quick, super fast, shifty guy. He more so runs people over. And I've heard a lot of reports from different people that have been going to the practices that his vision looks improved going into this season compared to any other season previously. So it sounds like we're probably going to get the best of B-Rob. And I think only JaCorey Merritt being on the team is only going to help. First of all, it's going to keep Brian Robinson a little bit healthier, less mileage on him with less carries because he has to split it with JaCorey now along with Austin Eckler, of course. But also JaCorey's going to challenge Brian Robinson to be better because when JaCorey goes out there and he's balling out, that's going to be a call to Brian Robinson like, hey, don't let this young guy show you up, let alone this 7th round rookie. So I think we're going to get the best out of Brian Robinson for those reasons as well. Also, Chris Russell pointed out the fact that Jalen Lane had a crosser from Sam Hartman that was in stride. So great throw by Sam Hartman to throw it in stride. And also shouts out to Jalen Lane for getting open. Of course, if he's catching passes from Sam Hartman, that means he's more than likely going against the backup defense as well. But still, congratulations on Jalen Lane for getting open and making plays. But most importantly, Chris Russell pointed out the fact that JaCorey Merritt was the back at a certain point in practice, so he's fully back. Once we got the full pass Thursday walkthrough, he was in a non-contact jersey, but then Friday's full-blown, full-contact, fully padded practice, JaCorey was out there, but sadly, he got blown up on 2 plays. Jeremy Reeves got him one time off of the edge. There was just nothing going. The defense sniffed it out. I guess the offensive line didn't block it very well because we saw what he could do in that preseason game. We saw that he could turn a negative 2-yard gain for most people, most running backs in the NFL, and at least get back to the line of scrimmage or maybe even gain 1 yard. That is such a unique, hard to find ability, man. That's so rare. And that's something I definitely covered in my running backs, to always be able to make something even out of nothing. Even when the offensive line doesn't block it very well, you can make something out of that. And I remember the stat I gave y'all. When it comes to stacked boxes, he was the best running back in the entire nation. That's including this draft class, including other running backs that are currently still in college right now. That's including Aston Genty, Amarian Hampton, Travion Henderson, any of those guys. He was the best against stacked boxes. That means like 8 or more defenders in the box 7 or 8 or more, somewhere around there. But either way, when defenders have more guys than the offensive line can block, JaCorey Brooks was the best at a certain advanced stat at like winning snaps or something like that, some advanced metric than any other running back in the entire college landscape, and anybody that entered this draft with him as well. So I'm not surprised, but it's just great to see. So like my point is that when you hear about him in practice getting stuff behind the line of scrimmage, that means that the defense really knew what he was doing, because we saw against the Patriots game what he can do. So I mean, he wasn't getting stuff behind the line of scrimmage there, so this defense must be really, really serious. And then also, JaCorey Brooks talked about how he isn't getting complacent amid all of the ongoing Commanders' adulation. All eyes were on Krosky during his first preseason game against the Patriots. It was solid enough of a debut, despite suffering a hard hit on his shoulder, which took him out of the game. However, this was not an opinion shared by the player. He said, quote, "I'm blessed to be here, but it's not the kind of game I wanted." That's interesting to hear, because I thought it was crazy. I mean, it made me even more hype about him than I already was. I could just work on it moving forward. It's definitely fixable. I think I was moving a little too fast, but I mean, it's going to take time. It's my first game, and I think things will slow down for me, and it will be good. Anytime we're on the field, we want to win and we want to compete. Even though it's preseason, it's just a bad feeling losing games. We just got to go back out there tomorrow and be ready to work, unquote. I love that quote from him, man. Great mentality to have, because I thought as a spectator, he looked great. So the fact that he's not at all comfortable with what he did, and he feels like he has so many different ways he needs to improve, that just shows that he's destined for greatness. Speaking of being destined for greatness, Ian Hartitz on Twitter talked about JaCorey Brooks' comp being if LaDainian Tomlinson and Adrian Peterson had a baby, then Clinton Portis and Ricky Williams had a baby, and then those babies had a baby. He was just trolling us, I guess, because of all of the hype that he's hearing from JaCorey Brooks from the Commanders fan base or whatever. But chill out, man. Leave our boy alone, man. He's going to be great. Of course, I know you're trolling, but watch out, man. Watch out for this boy JaCorey. Now moving on to the wide receivers. First of all, Skylar Nelson pointed out the fact that when they were in the bubble on August 14th, that was Thursday, and that was the jog through practice, she said that there were a lot of focus plays around wide receiver Deebo Samuel and team drills. So they're starting to try to like force feed him to make, you know, and I love that. Please make sure you have the ball in the hands of your best playmakers as often as possible. That used to really upset me with even Scott Turner at times, Eric Bieniemy as well, where we're using our best players like Terry McLaurin as distractions rather than forcing him the ball no matter what. When we played the Dallas Cowboys that first game last season, CeeDee Lamb had like 15 touches. They were giving him the ball out of the backfield. Whatever it took for him to at least get double-digit touches, they do that. Same thing with the Vikings when we go against them with Justin Jefferson. He's going to get a certain amount of touches. It doesn't matter even if he's double team or triple team, they're going to get targets and touches. And so I like the fact that Cliff Kingsbury is already starting to work on things like that with Deebo Samuel. And then Zach Selby even pointed out the fact that there was good execution by the Commander starting offense on a screen to Deebo Samuel. So the next day, August 15th, what I just told you about him being force-fed was August 14th. The next day, August 15th, Zach Selby said that they're already doing a good job of getting Deebo Samuel involved in screen plays. He was working against the second team defense, but it was still very notable that they could just continuing to force feed him the ball however they have to. And then also he pointed out, same day, again, the day after Skylar Nelson said that they were getting Deebo Samuel heavily involved, the very next day, Zach Selby said a lot of work for Deebo today, getting a lot of looks in different spots on the field and coming up with some impressive plays as well. So he's making the most of it. He's basically verifying why Cliff Kingsbury is doing what he's doing, to why he's force feeding Deebo Samuel, because he's a playmaker. He's going to make things happen. Some very impressive plays. I love to hear that. Lindell Willingham pointed out the fact that Bobby Ingram was given some one-on-one work with JaCorey Brooks at some point in the practice. I thought that was interesting, man, because maybe they really see something in this guy. Maybe this guy has enough talent to make the roster, but maybe there's still some rookie mistakes that he's making where Bobby Ingram, the wide receivers coach, felt like he needed to just spend some one-on-one time with this guy so he can get him to understand certain things, and whatever he's helping him with, please do, because JaCorey is a playmaker. I mean, look at this clip that came from practice, man. And this is the play that a lot of people were talking about. Like we mentioned earlier, Jayden Daniels threw a deep pass to JaCorey Brooks on a deep crosser for a big gain. Shouts out to Lindell Willingham for that update. And then even Mark Tyler said, please stop this. Please stop tweeting about this guy, because we won't be able to stash this guy on our practice squad if everybody knows about him. Now, of course, he's slightly joking, but also, I mean, man, if we could start to kind of take the hype down on JaCorey Brooks just a little bit, it would be nice, because I really hope other teams don't notice how much this guy's balling. It is getting to the point where I'm afraid that he would not stay on our practice squad. Somebody may scoop him up. Granted, he wasn't a drafted free agent, so a lot of people had a chance to scoop him up even before we did, but I don't know, man. I think he's made enough plays. He's been inconsistent. Again, he's the type of guy that makes a one-handed contested touchdown catch, and then the next play, he'll drop a wide open slant for no reason. But I think he's made enough plays, and he's starting to stack days to where he's been a little bit more consistent, that where another team may just try to steal him from us if we don't get him as the 6th receiver on our final 53-man roster. I'm afraid somebody may scoop him up, and us hyping him up and being so excited about him probably only make it worse, man. And Zach Selby said another deep completion to JaCorey Brooks working against Ben Nickel. I mean, he was making plays all throughout these past 2 days of practice. Then Linnell Willingham said really nice play from Brooks again. Tough catch in traffic. I mean, the momentum's only building, man. And then shouts out to Mark Tyler. He brought up the fact that John Kahn made an interesting comment on Brooks just a couple of days ago being on the practice squad as far as a candidate. He said every team has their own version of him, and he said although he popped a few times, he'd have to do something monumental to make the 53 roster over a vet like KJ Osborne, Michael Gallup, or even Tay Martin or something like that. So that's what John Kahm's thinking, so maybe we do have a chance to steal him away on our practice squad and nobody take him, because that is a good point, that it does seem like every team, or at least a lot of teams, do have some version of a JaCorey Brooks where it's just this random undrafted free agent or a late round rookie that's just hooping throughout the offseason. And so hopefully that keeps teams busy and distracted from our guy, because I really like our guy in JaCorey Brooks. Also, Zach Selby pointed out the fact that it was a good ability by Jalen Lane to get separation on Ben Nickel for a completion on a crossing route. Now, I don't like hearing good plays about JaCorey Brooks and Jalen Lane against Ben Nickel, because first of all, he's a linebacker, let alone a second-year undrafted free agent linebacker, so it's not like this guy's supposed to have great coverage. But hey, man, shouts out to those guys for not playing with their food, eating against an easy opponent in coverage. Now, moving on to the tight ends. Apparently, Jayden Daniels and Zach Ertz picked up right where they left off, because, of course, in that scrimmage, they didn't really have much of a connection going there. The defense dominated, but they got right back to it in this fully padded practice that we had yesterday, Friday, August 15th. He had a beautiful throw, according to JP Finley, to Zach Ertz, and it was like a route clinic type of thing where Zach Ertz just completely routed somebody up, and that's the reason that he ended up being so open. Now, moving on to the offensive line. Linnell Willingham pointed out the fact that Julian Good-Jones was getting some first-team work at left guard, but this was the practice that was Thursday, August 14th, in the jog-through in the bubble, where even some veterans like Laramie Tunsil and Zach Ertz didn't practice at all. So don't read too far into that. That's just them experimenting to see what guys can handle certain things. Like, they even had Josh Connolly at left tackle in that practice. Andrew Wiley moved back to right tackle, and again, no Laramie Tunsil out there, but I thought it was interesting that, first of all, Josh Connolly trying out left tackle instead of just them keeping them permanently at right tackle. And then Julian Good-Jones getting some work with the starting team left guard unit instead of it being like a Chris Paul or something like that. I thought that was really interesting. Also, Chris Russell pointed out the fact that in the practice that went down, the fully padded one from Friday, August 15th, there was a very quick incident involving Trent Scott on a running play, and a defender couldn't see the number as a tackle was made down to the ground. So every time we've had like a fully contacted practice, it seems to always be some sort of tempers flaring. We've only had like a couple, and this was one of them, and it just seems to be always some type of tension that comes from it. But at the end of the day, we shut it down. We all know that like we're for each other. We're all one team trying to win. We have all the same common goal. Let's go get the Super Bowl, man. And then Sky Abraham interviewed Andrew Wiley and talked about how he's been moving all around the line all training camp. Tackle, right tackle, left guard. I mean, he's been everywhere this training camp. And so Sky Abraham even asked him his preference, and shouts out to Andrew Wiley. He gave a good answer. He said, quote, "Whatever gets me on the field, honestly, as long as I'm out there, it's the position for me," unquote. And I like that answer. Now moving on to the defensive side of the ball, and we have a couple of updates here. Like, first of all, Joe Wood Jr., after the practice that went down yesterday, Friday, August 15th, he addressed the media. He said that the defense has had some really good practices. We've heard they've had some dominant ones to where we're even questioning our offense a little bit. He said they're rushing well and working together as a unit, and that's really all you need to be a really good defense. Getting turnovers would be really nice as well. That's a little bit of an extra, but if you're rushing the passer well and your secondary is communicating very well, boy, that's a dangerous defense. That's how you get turnovers. And then also Joe Wood Jr. talked about the Patriots preseason game. He said the effort was there, but the details were not. I thought that was a very interesting quote, so I like the fact that, you know, they kind of have a little bit of a different philosophy on what down, and they feel like they know exactly what they need to correct. And he's basically taking the blame away from the players, because effort is players, technique and refinement is typically blame placed on the coaches. So shouts out to him for him stepping in front of that moving bus of the bullet for the players right there, because I feel like it was more of a lack of effort than anything else. But Joe Wood Jr. taking one for the team, throwing himself under the bus. That's real talk from a defensive coordinator, man. He a cool guy for that. And then also now moving on to the defensive line, Linnell Willingham pointed out the fact that Jacob Martin was another guy that has gotten a good amount of work with the first team defense. Now again, this also came from that Thursday, August 14th jog through, the same one where Josh Connolly played some left tackle with the first team offense, where Julian Good-Jones played some starting left guard with the first team offense. So it's kind of like take this with a grain of salt, but Jacob Martin was the guy that they decided to throw out there with the first team defense occasionally. I'm not saying he's going to start over like a Dietrich Wise, a Von Miller, or a Dorrance Armstrong, but that sounds like a guy that if they trust him enough to go out there, and if they're starting to experiment, he's the guy they're giving first team chances to, then maybe he's the guy that's probably going to make the roster behind Von Miller as far as being like an outside linebacker, designated pass rusher. I guess we'll see. And then also, we have these clips of Javon Kinlaw right here, uploaded by JP Finley, saying that Javon Kinlaw is a powerful dude. But even beyond this clip, Adam Kilgore brought up a good point, an interesting point. He said you don't often focus on upside when it comes to 5-year veterans who sign a $30 million guaranteed, but who signed for $30 million guaranteed. But the Commanders see Kinlaw as a player with a chance to break out, and so does he. Quote, I'm nowhere near the player I'm going to be, he said. But it's not even just him. Other people believe in him as well. Linnell Willingham pointed out the fact that I guess he overheard this at practice. Strong words of encouragement from Ryan Kerrigan to Kinlaw. Quote, I know you're going to be violent. If you get your technique down, you'll be a Pro Bowler, unquote. That's coming from Ryan Kerrigan himself, aka the Commanders pass rush specialist. And then also, before we move on from the defensive line to the linebackers real quick, before we have a lot to talk about as far as the DBs, we have more to talk about with the DBs than we have linebackers. Maybe not like a lot, but I thought it was interesting that Deron Payne posted on his Instagram just a few days ago that he wants to be utilized on offense. He posted a clip all the way back from high school where he was like the running back and ran for a touchdown. It was a really impressive touchdown as well. I highly suggest you go check that out. That is a real athlete right there, man. There's a reason he ended up at Alabama University during the Nick Saban era. And then also shouts out to @Commanders_365 because he brings up a good point. I wish the amount of times I've screened just put Payne in at fullback at my TV were tracked, because it's been a lot. I think that's an interesting point there. I think we should utilize Deron Payne at fullback occasionally. I know Georgia, we like to use our biggest defensive lineman, our nastiest defensive lineman. Like at one point, Jalen Carter would play fullback for us in certain situations. Before that, it was Jordan Davis. You know what I'm saying? I love that idea. I think the Commanders should definitely take advantage of that. Somebody hit up Cliff Kingsbury. Now moving on to the linebackers. First of all, you have this clip right here where Bobby Wagner was just pranking Deebo Samuel. He tapped him on his left shoulder, went to the right shoulder, and was basically like a made you look situation. It was just so silly and so random. I was like, might as well include it. You could just tell how easy these jog throughs are that we do. The one that we did on Thursday, because people are just doing stuff like that. It's not very competitive practice at all. There's no pads, no nothing. They're just chilling. No helmets, nothing. And then also, you just have this quick clip right here, 15 seconds from Scott Abraham of the linebackers just going through some drills and things like that. And I mean, again, it's a clip that was there. Felt like I might as well upload it for y'all to see. You have Bobby Wagner, then you have Frankie Louvu, then you have the other linebackers behind those guys. I believe that may have been Jordan McGee. Then it's like Kane Madrano. And so, hey, man, that's your linebacker group right there. I'm hoping they're ready to step up, man, especially with Jordan McGee getting back healthy. That's going to be huge for this defense. Now, moving on to the cornerbacks. And the safeties are going to kind of blend in towards the back end of the cornerbacks. And just really, it's an overall DB breakdown. For the cornerbacks, Kevin Sheehan was talking to Fred Smoot. Fred Smoot said that watching Trey Amos play press coverage brings a tear to his eye. He said, quote, he understands football. He hasn't backed down from one challenge, unquote. And you love to hear that, man. You love to hear that. Tre'Davious Amos has had such a great offseason. He has surpassed a lot of people's expectations for what a rookie could look like at this point in their NFL careers. August 16th up to the mid-August of their rookie year, most corners don't look this good. Most corners don't look this confident, this smooth, this versatile. We found one in Tre'Davious Amos. He had no business making it to the end of the second round where we got him. That's the type of guy that should have gone way early in the second round, maybe even in the first round. I mean, nobody would have questioned us if we took him with our 29th overall pick where we got Josh Connolly. So we technically came away with two players that really had no business being 29th overall. Because even just to get off topic real quick, Josh Connolly, a lot of scouts have said they feel like that if he went to Oregon for one more year, just went back to college for one more year, he's probably a top 5 pick. The Commanders are not going to have another top 5 pick in I don't know when. As long as Jayden Daniels is our quarterback, we're never going to have a top 5 pick. So basically, we only were able to get Josh Connolly because he left college early. And maybe there'll be some bumps in the road his rookie season, but a lot of people feel like this is a top 5 worthy talent draft-wise that we just got lucky to get him at 29. The same thing with Tre'Davious Amos. We could have got him at 29th overall. Nobody would have questioned it. Some people even preferred Tre'Davious Amos over Josh Connolly, 29th overall. And so the fact that we got him late in the second, and I've always said, man, corner and quarterback are the hardest positions to transition from college to the NFL, man. It's the two single most difficult positions to make that jump from college to NFL. So typically rookie corners, even the Pro Bowl ones, even the perennial Pro Bowlers, the guys that even make it to the Hall of Fame eventually, a lot of those guys don't look good in their rookie seasons. It's a big transition for those guys, quarterbacks and corners. So the fact that Tre'Davious Amos is already looking like he's going to probably have a similar season like my boy Kamari Lassiter, my Georgia dog, for the Houston Texans last year, or maybe even better, because I love Kamari Lassiter, but Tre'Davious Amos is like a erase a wide receiver from the game type of guy. Kamari Lassiter definitely has that potential, but I think Tre'Davious Amos may even turn out to end up being better, especially since I think he has a slightly higher ceiling athletically. Now moving on to the safety group, Joe Wood Jr. praised Reeves and said, quote, he just keeps making plays on defense, unquote. It's hard to pull him from the special teams role, but Witt wants to find a spot for him in the secondary. And that's an interesting point that, like, man, this guy's been balling so much. I mean, you can't play him on special teams a lot and play him on defense a lot. But he's been making so many plays, even as an all-pro special teamer, and we love him there. He's been playing so well on the defensive side of the ball. It's going to pretty much be, he's going to be undeniable as far as playing him on Sundays at safety. Right now, he's probably your third safety on the depth chart. Joe Wood Jr. even said, quote, yeah, I mean, he's earned right now to be that third safety type of player. Well, you'll see him in there more. He's such a special teams ace that it's hard to just play him full-time on defense because he's so important in special teams, but he just keeps making plays and making plays. So we're going to find plays for him on defense, and he's earned that. He's always around the ball. His physicality is unmatched, and so I've been very pleased with what he's done in this camp. And even to that point, that preseason game, he looks like the men amongst boys. You know what I'm saying? Like, Johnny Newton had a really good performance for the little bit of time he was in there. Tre'Davious Amos, Josh Connolly, both look great. JaCorey Brooks looked great as well. But Jeremy Reeves, you could argue, had the best overall game outside of the penalty that he had on special teams. But defensively, he was the most impactful player on our entire defense out of that entire preseason game, man. He was and that was, granted, it was like a lot of our backups, mostly backups for us, versus a lot of the starters for the Patriots. When Jeremy Reeves was out there, he was making plays against the starting Patriots offense, at least a lot of them. Maybe not the entire starting offense, but that was like Drake May and Pop Douglas, all of those guys. So I thought that was interesting, man. Jeremy Reeves was hooping, and John Com even said that a couple of days ago. I brought that up in a video that John Com said, yeah, man, this guy Jeremy Reeves, he's undeniable. He's been playing so well on defense, he's going to be playing a lot, man. And I don't remember Jeremy Reeves looking good as a safety on the defensive side of the ball since he was like next to Monte Nicholson. I remember those days. And then after that, it's sort of teared off a little bit. It wasn't that good, but now it sounds like he's getting back to it, and I love to hear that. Then special teams wise, shouts out to Skylar Nelson for pointing out the fact that there was a lot of special teams work, and Jalen Lane started the drill, so it sounds like he's your starting punt returner, and he was getting more reps as expected as the team's returner. So Jalen Lane, I've already talked about this like a week ago, maybe even more than a week ago. Jalen Lane is probably already a starting punt returner, and he's definitely that by now. They just keep going and keep going. Also, Skylar Nelson pointed out the fact that Matt Gay made all of his kicks in the practice that went down Thursday, August 14th in the bubble. And then the next day, Friday, August 15th, Chris Russell said that Matt Gay went 5 for 5 on field goals, and they went progressively further in distance, starting at about the 33 and then finishing at around the 52. He made all 5 of those kicks as well. So he has gone 2 straight practices of not missing a single kick, and that's including even some 50-yarders in there. And so Mark Tyler said we can all sleep better at night. That missed wide left in the Patriots game was definitely concerning, but it sounds like maybe that was just nerves. I don't know. That was his very first kick as a Commander. I'm happy to hear that he's been killing it in practice, which is, I mean, it it makes it even crazier what he did in that preseason game, because I was hearing that he was killing it in practices before that preseason game. So now I got to go out there in this Bengals preseason game and make sure he's on point. Also, JB Finley brought up, and he said an interesting thing to watch Monday night. Bill Merritt is a kick returner. Like Austin Eckler says, running backs got to make yourself sticky to a roster, and that means special teams. So maybe JaCorey will compete for a kick return role. I kind of predicted he would do that even before we drafted him, but especially after we drafted him. But now I'm thinking that, you know, maybe there's some real motion there, but at the same time, I haven't heard about him participating in kick return drills yet, so maybe that won't happen. I don't know, but I thought it was a good idea talent-wise, but I haven't heard anything about it so far this offseason. Also, David Harrison pointed out the fact that the Commanders have announced that they've completely sold out of club-level season tickets for 2025, so I wanted to go ahead and warn y'all about that. A couple of other random updates before we go as well. Also, former Washington and, of course, Jacksonville Jaguar guard, Washington Redskin, Brandon Sheriff has retired from the NFL just a couple of days ago. Just to let you know, he played 10 NFL seasons. The first 7 were with the Burgundy and Gold, and he was a 5-time Pro Bowler, first-team All-Pro in 2020. He was Washington's first all-team All-Pro since 1996, man. That is insane. That is insane, man. Since I've even known what football was, Brandon Sheriff was the only All-Pro I've seen on this team until we just got a couple last year. That is insane, man. And then also, before we go, Jimmy Kempsey, when the Eagles had a joint practice with the Cleveland Browns, he tweeted that Myles Garrett is sacking Jalen Hurts on him almost every play. He just pulls up and lets the Eagles finish the rep, and it's almost comical. So these are plays that the Eagles are finishing because it's practice, but at the end, if this were a real game, he would have gotten cooked. So I'm happy to hear that, yeah, they've had a couple of losses to their offensive line, some injuries, some retirements, and just the overall team got kind of picked apart in the offseason. I still feel like they're going to be a really good team. The NFC East and really the entire NFC still runs through them. I mean, they still got Georgia Dogs on that team now. Like, don't overlook them. But their team got picked apart in free agency. A lot of their talented players ended up on other teams. They suffered injuries. So the Eagles are not going to be as good as they were last year. Last year's Eagles teams would easily beat what I feel like this Eagles team is going to be. They're still a really good team, but maybe this pass rush can really get to Jalen Hurts and affect him this year, especially with our improved ability to stop the run and, you know, forcing Jalen Hurts to have to throw the ball if we're able to shut down Saquon Barkley. Way easier said than done, though. But yeah, man, that's the end of this video. Please get in the comment section. Let me know if you feel about everything discussed in the video. Please stiff arm that like button, stiff arm the subscription button, and stiff arm the bell next to that subscription button so you get notification each and every time I release an informative and opinionated video just like this one. Really appreciate y'all for supporting every video. Again, if you made it this far in the video, especially since I'm like a whole 2 days late for Thursday's practice and a whole basically day late for yesterday's practice that went down Friday, August 15th, you are the GOAT yourself, man. If you're still watching me and listening to me, I salute you and appreciate you personally. Make sure you leave a like on the way out, and of course, let me know in the comment section how you feel about everything discussed in this video. I have a few more updates that I can't wait to give y'all. So maybe if they don't have a practice at some point today, Saturday, August 16th, then this will be a perfect time for me to upload this video. Maybe I'll just do it anyway in the morning, even if they do have practice, and then I'll just break down practice late at night, just like I did with this one going into the next morning. Who knows? But either way, just stay tuned. Really appreciate y'all. Leave a like on the way out. I'm gonna catch y'all later. I'm out.